This is something that I fell in a deep, dark hole in during COVID, actually. It
Okay.
was something that kept like popping up all over my TikTok and just like the internet in general. And basically, what a liminal place is it's an image of a place that you see that looks extremely familiar. It provokes a feeling of familiarity, but it's not a place that you've ever been to before. So it makes you kind of feel unsettled because it's like, why do I relate so heavily to this image when I've never been in this place?
Bringin It Backwards.
Awesome, dude. Yeah, so I'm Adam, and this is about you and your journey in music, and we'll talk about your latest record.
Awesome.
Sweet. So first off, where were you born and raised?
I was born actually in Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
Okay.
And then I moved out to a place called Winnipeg when I was about 5 years old. And I was raised there as well. Stayed there basically my whole life.
Okay, so Winnipeg is really where you grew up. And
Yeah, that's where I was home.
okay. What was it like growing up there? Cold?
Very cold. Yeah, like our city actually gets so cold that we've exceeded temperatures of the surface of Mars and Antarctica. Like that's how cold it can get here.
No way. What do you do in those situations? Just stay inside, obviously.
I mean, as much as you can, but like in those situations, still people expect you to go to school if you're in school or go to work if you're working. So like they don't care unless there's like tons of snow. It's like go to work.
The temperature doesn't matter. You go outside and literally freeze and they don't care.
I think it has to be like minus 60 degrees Celsius before they start really being like, okay, maybe stay home.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so cold. Well, what about music? I did read that you kind of got into hip hop at least through your father.
Yeah, so when I was younger, my dad he listens to a lot of hip hop, Tupac, Eminem, Biggie, like those types, that era. Um, and he introduced me to hip hop when I was younger. He didn't really want me listening to the music in full, obviously, because that type of music isn't always for kids. But I remember one time, very vividly, he made me listen to like one line in one Eminem song, and then he was like, "Okay, leave." He just wanted to show me the one line he thought was cool, and I was like super impressed. Like immediately, I was hooked. And I remember like taking an old hand-me-down laptop that I had out and going on YouTube, and then the whole rest of the entire night was just like going through the entire Eminem catalog and just like investing in my whole day in it.
Oh wow. What was the Eminem song? Do you remember?
It was actually the real Slim Shady.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
What
and I
was the
can't remember
lyric?
the line. I
Oh,
can't
you don't
remember the
remember.
lyric. That's the one thing I can't remember for the life of me. But I remember it was that song because I remember the music video, and he was because he was playing it off of YouTube as well. And then that's when I went immediately upstairs, and I just that was the rest of the night.
Found it. Is that's the video where it's just a bunch of him, right? Like carbon
Yes,
copies of
exactly.
him everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. And but prior to that, were you in did your parents put you in like piano lessons or anything like that or as a kid growing up?
Not really. I tried drumming at one point. I thought that was pretty cool, and then I just quickly realized that instruments just my brain can't do it. I don't know what it is. I just never picked up instruments. Writing, really good at, always loved it. Um, obviously doing stuff with my voice and stuff like that's fun for me, but I could never pick up an instrument.
Okay. And when do you start writing? Was that just something that you've always kind of done? And when does that turn into writing songs?
I've always wrote. It started just writing stories and just like I remember for the longest time, like I've had just like this crazy, very colorful imagination. I could sit and just imagine a whole world for hours if I just sat and did nothing, and it would be very fun for me. But then I think around probably like I don't know, 10, 11, maybe even younger, I start trying to write music, and then obviously wasn't very good at it. But like, I remember in elementary school, there's a group of girls that had this little band, and I remember they came to me to write songs for them, and then I was this ghostwriter for these elementary school girls, and I got bullied for that actually.
That's funny. You would write what the lyrics for them?
Yeah, yeah. I remember being in class on a piece of loose leaf, just writing down lyrics, and then this kid came over my shoulder and being like, "What are you doing?" And then I just got bullied for it.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Did that kind of steer you away from writing like music at all when you got older or no?
Maybe a little bit for a brief period, like in that age area where I just like was very unsure. But I don't think it took very much or very long for me to just be like, ah, whatever, I'm just gonna do it. But I did it more secretly, to myself in my house, not ghostwriting for the elementary school girls at that point.
Got it. And when
Yeah.
do you get the confidence to kind of show people or like maybe even record something of your own and put it up on like SoundCloud or something like that?
I was 14, I was in grade 9. I remember I found this old Big L beat that I really, really liked. I just kinda stumbled across it, and I wrote to it, and then I ended up writing and recording, um, the song just off my iPhone. I basically just took my iPhone out on voice notes and just recorded the beat and myself all just in one take. And then I remember posting it on Facebook at the time. I was like, again, 14. And then a bunch of comments came through and people actually were like liking the song. And I was like, oh, this is cool. I don't know where the confidence just came from. I think I was just writing it and there's a lot of confidence behind the Big L beat itself. And I just like found myself in it and was like, whatever, let's just do this. And then after that, I just never stopped.
Okay. So yeah, you get obviously validation pretty early on from doing something like that, throwing up on Facebook. Okay, let's see what happens. And then people are actually saying, hey man, like this is really good.
Yeah, and honestly, whether or not those comments were like patronizing me or legitimate, like good job comments to this day, I still don't know. But it was enough for me to be like, oh, I'm gonna keep doing this, and I never stopped.
Yeah, nor does it matter, right? I mean,
No,
you're like, okay, I'm gonna take it as this. Love it. Let's keep going.
exactly.
Okay. And from there, like, were you just continually putting, like, would you try your songs out, or would you put them all up on then Facebook? Was that something that you continued to do, or like, what was kind of the next step for you?
I think the first 2 songs, 3 songs were just straight up on Facebook. I don't know why I chose Facebook. I don't know. That's what I did,
It's
and
probably the
then
big
I
thing at
think it
the
was
time.
Yeah, kind of, and then I think after my 2nd or 3rd, I was like, "I'm just gonna use my YouTube channel, and there I'm gonna go on SoundCloud," and then I just found every avenue that I could and just uploaded it everywhere that I could, and I remember at one point when I started, I was so addicted to doing it that, like, I was posting something every single day for I don't even know how long. I would go home after school, write a song, record it on my iPhone, and then release it, and then I think it took maybe, like, a week or 2 weeks before my mom and dad were like, "Let's go buy you a microphone," like, an actual one. I was like, "Okay." And then that's when I got I think it was a Blue Yeti microphone at the time. That was
Mhm.
my first ever microphone. Bought that and then started continuing that just with a little bit better equipment at that time.
Were you using beats that you'd find on YouTube, or like, how are you constructing the
Everything, yeah.
songs?
Yeah, everything because I didn't know how to play instruments and I didn't know how to produce. I just would go on YouTube and I would look up just like rap beats, and then that turned into like Eminem type beats and Tupac type beats, and then just like finding my sound through these different beats on YouTube. I would record it and then just release it, not even thinking about like copyright laws or any of that stuff. I was just like, this sounds cool, post it, and I would comment like, this is this beat from this song, and then I thought that would be enough.
Right. And what do you do, like, at what point do you realize, "Oh, man, like, to really continue doing this, I need to either write my own songs or kinda license or do that, more the legal step of this all?"
Right. It was actually later than I'd like to admit because I just got so like, oh, this is so easy. I'm just gonna keep. I stopped using like straight like remixes for like I wasn't taking the real Slim Shady beat, and I stopped doing stuff like that. I would find
Uh-huh.
like small producers on YouTube making their own beats, and then I'd use those. But I wasn't even thinking about licensing them. I was just ripping them straight from YouTube for a while, and then I want to say probably 4 years ish, in is when I started like licensing them and going through like their platforms and paying them whatever had to be paid. And then, but still using these YouTube producers, it probably wasn't until it wasn't until my 5th year of making music when I worked with my first producer in a room making something from scratch.
Oh, what was that like? Like, how did you meet this producer?
I met this producer through my now manager, Tim. I guess they were already working together, and I started working with Tim. And he's like, "How? Like, where do you usually do sessions?" And I was like, "My bedroom." Like, "Who do you usually work
Yeah.
with?" "No one, just myself." And he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna put you in the studio with this guy who is his name is Pharaoh." And I've worked with him on probably like 90% of all of the songs that I have released and unreleased, just because we work so well together. But I remember the first time being put in that room, I mainly was just a rapper, and he mainly was just producing pop records. So it was two very different sides of the spectrum put in one room. And I remember just being like, like, what do we do? Like, so,
Yeah.
but it was good because he started branching out and learning how to produce hip hop. And I started branching out because I was like, well, maybe I should learn how to sing a little bit. And then now that's why I do this thing where it's like, okay, I'm rapping and singing at the same time.
Mhm. Wow. And how did you meet your manager? Was that over the computer as well?
Kind of. So it's actually a weird story how it really happened. Um, there's an artist named Fozia that he works with. I'm sure you've probably heard of her
Mhm.
because she's great. She's really doing well right now, and
Yeah,
she's
I've had her
also
on my show before. Fauzia?
oh awesome,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
exactly. So she's from kind of where I'm from, not
Oh,
from where
really?
I'm from, but
But yeah,
she
she's
grew up,
Canadian, I
yeah.
knew that, yeah.
Yeah. So I remember I think she was very young and she did some type of talent show in some school that my dad's son was in that he was in that school and his mom was doing some like basically looking over that talent show or whatever. And he went out for dinner with us, my dad's friend, and was like, "Hey, have you ever heard of this girl? Like, she did a talent show at my son's school." I was like, "No, I actually never heard of this girl." And I reached out to her personally on Facebook, and I was like, "Hey, I'm an artist up and coming. I'd love to do some type of collaboration with you." And then I didn't hear anything until her manager Tim reached out to me and was like, "Hey, Fozy is not doing any collabs right now, but I listened to your song and I actually really like what you're doing. I would love to set up some type of meeting." And it was like probably 6 months between the time I messaged Fozia and then like that message happened from Tim. And then I was like, yeah, sure, but I didn't know anything about Tim at the time or really anything about Fozia. And then where I'm from, there's not like when someone approaches you and is like, I'm an artist manager, where I'm from, you don't really take that stuff seriously. So I was like, okay, yeah, like I'll meet you. I remember being though in this time in my career where I almost wanted to quit because I didn't really know where to go. I remember being in this place where I was like I feel kind of stagnant. Maybe I should just quit and then do something else. And then but when he reached out to me, I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. I'll take this meeting. And I remember waking up that day and not really wanting to leave my house to go meet with this random dude that I barely knew. So I just messaged him and I lied basically, and I was like, "Hey, my car it's not working. I'm not going to be able to make it." And I don't know if you know Tim or how well you know him, but he's very persistent.
I don't
So
yeah, I
when
don't
I
know
was
him at all. That's crazy.
he's very persistent. So he was like, "Oh yeah, no worries, we'll do it tomorrow." Just like assuming that it was all going to be fine. I was like, "God, okay, fine, we'll do it tomorrow." And then the next day, we met up and we had lunch. He said all the right things. Again, I was in a place where I was going to quit anyway, and so I was like, honestly, if this guy's scamming me, it just wasn't meant to be. So, but then we've been working together ever since.
Really? Wow, that's funny that he he kinda ghosted him on the first one.
Yeah,
Especially, I mean, yeah, because Fozia is I mean, she's really a big artist,
yeah,
right? I think she signed to, like, Warner or something massive like that.
yeah.
Um,
She's doing well.
yeah, but that's crazy that I mean, to have that or Atlantic, I think she's on Atlantic. But for him to reach out and say, "This is really good," and then when you had that conversation with him, was it like, "Oh, okay, this guy's legit?" Like, when you
It seemed
actually
that
met
way.
up? Yeah.
It seems either he was really legit or he was like some super good con artist and he was about to take everything, but then again I was like, I'm gonna quit anyway, so like whatever, if he takes everything, that's how it was supposed to go. But we are still working together and that was 4 or 5 years ago.
Wow. So if you wouldn't have came along, then you feel like you would have stopped doing music?
There's a high chance I would have stopped making music. And a lot of the doors that got open for me after that was because of my partnership with Tim, because he was already working with Fozia. Fozia was kind of, well established at that point. She was like making her way up. And he was working with Pharaoh, who I work with now and I work really well with. So like I met Pharaoh through Tim and just like a lot of the avenues happened because of that meeting. And the fact that I was just like, whatever, sure, let's just do it. So
That's amazing. And so you start working with him, and it was did that significantly help as far as, like, I mean, with Pharaoh and putting out music, were you is that when you started putting out the songs that you have up now on, like, Spotify and everything? Like,
it's
Rundown
kind
and all
of
those songs are Professional?
Yeah, kind of. So there was a period where we just did kind of some revamping where I was like, I want to change my name. I want to change the look a little bit. Like I want to take things more seriously. And Tim was the one that was helping me do that at that time. So there was a period where I wasn't releasing music after starting working with Tim, where I was just like, okay, I'm gonna lay back, I'm gonna figure it out, like perfect my craft. That's when I started working with Pharaoh, changing the sound. Everything started sounding a lot more professional at that point, and then just like figuring that out. And I think I can't remember the exact amount of time, maybe a year, maybe two, maybe even three. I honestly can't remember. Before we started releasing those songs, so Down, Professional, and Runner. But we released those quite closely to each other. But those were like my entry back after changing my name into what it is now, which is VC.
Yeah, with VC, that it means what, 5, I think is what I was reading. 5.
Right. Yeah.
And so what's the story behind 5? Or like is there something that number means to you, or like what does that kind of come from?
So I remember sitting and having breakfast with Tim at the time and we were just kind of thinking about like what could we change the name to, like what's significant. And there's a saying that says life goes in 5-year cycles. So every 5 years, if you look back, your life is probably, in some way largely different than it was 5 years before that. And I like that saying. It's always kind of stuck with me. And I just actually got back from doing a tour in Europe as well, where I was there for a month, and like that was life changing as well. And VC is a Finnish word. Um, so the direct connection between VC and why I named myself that is when I was changing my name, I was talking to Fozia even. I was saying like, hey, what do you think I should change my name to? And she was at the time, she was saying like Da Vinci's kind of cool. And I was like, it is cool, but like I don't want to just like rip that name. I don't think that's gonna work for me. But that was the one that kept like cycling in my head. I was like, I can't just use that. But then um VC and Da Vinci obviously sound very closely, and I was like VC, and then Tim was like, "What's that?" I was like, "It means 5." And then it kind of fell into place because that when I was changing my name, it had been 5 years since I started making music. I was starting to work with Tim, changing my name, basically setting myself up for the next 5 years. So that's why the saying, life kind of goes in 5-year cycles. And it really did truly change my life. Like from when I started to that point, and then from that point to now, completely different. So it all kind of made sense.
That's cool. I know the saying now that you mentioned it, but I didn't think about that, like being
Yeah.
life in 5-year circle. Yeah, cycles. That's and so you've done the most recent one you have out is episode 2, Red Windows, which is what, like a 2-song like EP type thing.
Right.
But
Yeah.
before that, episode 1, kind of tell me, like, does episode 1 run into 2? Like, is there like a through line? Is it kind of like a concept? Or yeah, so tell me about, like, Chasing Ghosts is a big song for you, and Autophobia with episode 1. Like, what did that mean going into this new um episode 2?
Right.
And how many
Yeah.
episodes do we
So
have? I guess.
so
Got 10
right
questions
now
there.
there's right now there's 2 episodes, Autophobia and Red Windows. There are more episodes to come. Basically uh we're going to be releasing 11 of them from the first one there. And what we're going to be doing is every one will have 2 songs on it. And at the end of it, it's going to be this collection of music called the Liminal Collection. So what the Liminal Collection is it's basically, are you familiar with what liminal is and like that whole
No.
concept? No?
No,
Okay.
tell
So
me about it.
this is something that I fell in a deep dark hole in during COVID. Actually, it
Okay.
was something that kept like popping up all over my TikTok and just like the internet in general. And basically, what a liminal place is it's an image of a place that you see that looks extremely familiar. It provokes a feeling of familiarity, but it's not a place that you've ever been to before. So it makes you kind of feel unsettled because it's like, why do I relate so heavily to this image when I've never been in this place? And it's just like this weird phenomenon of images, where it uses special lighting and coloring and just things that make you feel nostalgic that provokes that. And I really, really loved this concept of like, why do I feel like I've been there but I've never been there? And it almost gave me this feeling of connection.
Mhm.
And so that's why I called this whole collection of music the Liminal Collection. And that's basically that through line there, because and every episode, autophobia and red windows, these are words that are associated with the liminal theory if you research it a little more and you get familiar with it. But basically the concept is I'm releasing music that is very personal, very vulnerable, very relatable. So it's like when someone listens to these songs, they could almost feel like they're listening to their own story when in fact it's not really. So it's kind of that parallel between like it looks like I've been at this place, but I haven't. That's just due to the fact that like in Chasing Ghosts, for example, I get very vulnerable about past relationships. Or when I in future episodes and I talk about my family relationship issues, I'm getting again very vulnerable, and anyone who's been through these same things can listen and go, oh my god, it almost feels like this is exactly just the things that I'm thinking and the things that I'm feeling because I just let it all out there. And even like on the first episode, autophobia, there's a song called Na Na Na, which if you listen to it at face value, it kind of just sounds like me rapping. There isn't any underlying message really that connects, but there is, because that's me still being super vulnerable and putting my neck out there and just being like, I'm the best. Like I really truly feel like when it comes to rapping, I am the greatest. And it just, again, putting myself in a vulnerable situation for people to look at me and go, no, you're not, but I don't care. So it's just like me constantly making these relatable messages or putting myself out there for people to relate to. And that's what creates the liminal connect or collection. Sorry.
Wow, that's cool. So you obviously have the concept, and does like red windows, and are those you said those are pieces of, if you look at what the liminal thing is as a whole. So does
Yeah.
each episode have like pull from that, and does the title relate to the storyline of the songs at all? Like with red windows, does that relate to the two records that are on that?
Yeah. So every name is going to have some type of relation to the liminal theory altogether, and then the songs, the titles got chosen, and I basically took the songs and I plugged them in where I felt these songs related most to this verbiage or these words. So like red windows, for example, is an image that you'll see a lot in liminal spaces. You'll see like if there's a house and there's a window, it's probably got a red light on the inside, and it kind of provokes this warm, like what's going on in there type of situation. So in in my second song, Lost Who I Am, on episode 2, it's this inner dialogue of when I first moved to LA for 3 months, and just kind of like how I felt at the time, where I was like doing all these things and I was away from my friends, away from my family. And I feel like people were always looking in and being like, what's going on inside his head? Because I was just kind of like always in this, like, what is going on? And not really saying it out loud. A lot of it was more just in my head. And I probably looked nuts because I was always just like not able to compute what was happening because everything was going very fast. So it's kind of where that thing where people look and go, I wonder what's happening in his head right now, which is like when you see that red window, you're like, I wonder what's going on inside that house right now.
Yeah, I love that. And with this, project rolling out, you said there's 11 episodes. Do you have all of the songs together and you're just kind of going to have like a theory of how you're going to release them, or you're still working on plugging in those songs?
Right. So what I did is I took a long time off after even releasing the Rundown EP, which is Down Professional Runner there. I took a long time to perfect my craft again. I wanted to level up again. Um, and I stacked up so many songs, like hundreds of songs, um, that I just basically songs I look back now and there's songs I would have loved to have released that now I never would. But that's basically why I took that time off, where it's just like I really kept on growing. And now because I did that and I'm ready to release again, I have all this music. I just have to put it into these collections and or these small episodes and then release them. So it's all planned out, all the music is ready. Obviously, if I go ahead and I make a song that I feel might fit better to what I'm talking about or anything, I might swap something out. But right now, it's all pretty set in stone.
I love that. Cool, man. Well, I can't wait to hear the rest of the episodes. What you're doing thus far is awesome, and I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, I have one more quick question. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
I would say honestly, just stay true to yourself. I know that sounds corny and everyone says that, but honestly, looking back when I started making music, a lot of my mindset was how could I impress this person or how could I be like this person? But when I closed myself off and I was just like, I'm only making music for myself. I'm not releasing it, so it doesn't matter what I do or say or how it sounds. That's when I truly found what I liked to do, and now everything became a lot more fun. So that when you really truly start making music for what you like and you're true to yourself, it'll be more fun and it'll make the results come quicker, I think.
Bringin' it backwards.